Let's talk about the Bruce Lee documentary. Let's go. Hey, what's up, everybody? I hope everyone's having a good Father's Day. I'm having an excellent one. You know, as I mentioned, I just watched, hold up. There we go. I just watched the Bruce Lee documentary with my daughters, and what an amazing documentary. The man did a lot in his 31 years. You know, it was super impressive to see what type of legacy that he left behind. And you know, for me, what was interesting about the Bruce Lee documentary was the fact that, you know, he was 32 years old, and a lot of his movies actually were very political movies, you know, disguised as action flicks. You know, that's something I didn't quite understand until I watched this. And you know, it really helped me understand how forward thinking he was. Hold on, my lips are dry. How's the music level? Music level's okay? Everyone watching? Yeah, you know, so watching the whole Bruce Lee documentary, my wife asked me when Bruce Lee died, and I remember it was like in the early 70s, I think 1972 or 1973, and she was asking me, she goes, I go, why? And she goes, I was just seeing if you were like Bruce Lee reincarnated. And, you know, at first it sounded like such kind of like a joke of a thing to say, like, yeah, am I the reincarnation of Bruce Lee? You know? And, you know, watching the documentary, seeing all the things that he stood for, it was super impressive, man. Like, you know, he died at the age of 32. He left this legacy after only making 4 movies. You know, this lasting impression on Hollywood. And, you know, what really separated him from all the other action stars out there, you know, there was other guys that knew how to punch and kick and do all the martial arts that he knew how to do. But I think where he was head and shoulders above the other people was how much he could emote through his body. You know, you could see, even when he wasn't saying words, how much emotion was coursing through his body when he was doing things. And that was really impressive to me, you know, and just understanding like the philosophy. He was a philosophy major. You know, I'm actually much more impressed with Bruce the philosopher than Bruce the martial artist. He's really a forward thinker. There was one scene in there where the interviewer asked him, you know, do you see yourself more as an American, or do you still see yourself as a Chinese person? And before he answered, he thought about it for a second, and he said, well, first and foremost, I see myself as a human being. And when he said that, I mean, you know, for someone to say that in the late 60s or early 70s, like, I'm a human being, I'm not Chinese, I'm not American, I'm a human being. You know, that was so powerful. So powerful. And I loved how he was uncompromising in his beliefs. You know, he could have accepted a lot of roles, you know, playing demeaning Asian characters, but he didn't want to do that. So he started writing his own roles. You know, it was so impressive. So impressive watching him do that, you know, in the 70s, late 60s and early 70s, you know, how progressive it was for someone to even be thinking that way. You know, like, we still don't have a Bruce Lee. You know, we still don't have someone that has transcended the way that he has transcended. And that's why I think he's so remarkable. Man, I don't think he's the best martial artist of all time. It doesn't matter if he is or he isn't. His legacy and his impact for Asian Americans, for Asian males in particular, will last a very, very long time. Watching it with my daughters, they didn't quite understand everything. Actually, Savannah was super bored. Sophie watched it, but Yen watched, and she was very surprised, at all those things that he had to go through in order to just be a sidekick in the Green Hornet, and all the caricatures that they had of Asian males before him. It really makes me proud when I see someone like Bruce. Like if he was alive today, he would be super progressive today. Much like Muhammad Ali was. And what I learned from Bruce Lee is that Bruce fully accepted himself. He wasn't representing Asian men. He was representing Bruce Lee. And he was perfectly comfortable showing the world who Bruce Lee was. And I believe that's why he has this legacy, even though he died before his first movie came out. There was something about him that was different than all the other action stars and all the other Asian men. I mean, we've had guys like Jackie Chan, Donnie Yen, Jet Li, a bunch of other Asian stars after him. Yeah. And I think the biggest difference, at least the biggest difference to me, was how honest Bruce was how honest Bruce Lee was with himself, and how he wanted to project that truth to the world. That's a different type of talent. He talks about it's easy doing fancy kicks. Like I was really good at doing flips, so I would always love to show people the flips. But I didn't like showing people, the real me. What is the real me? That's a great question. I'm comfortable showing people confidence, Sabo. Leadership, Sabo. I'm very confident. I'm very comfortable showing the world that side. But I'm not as comfortable showing them all my insecurities, all the things that keep me up at night. What my true dreams are, what my true passions are. And I believe Bruce, Bruce embodied that. And that's why he captivated not just America, but the world. Because he was able to tap into his authentic self, his true self, unapologetically, and displaying that for the world. Many times it was him just, throwing a punch, and you could see all that anger, all that frustration in his body, not just in his face, in his body, how tense he was. Yeah, watching it with my kids, and they saw that, Bruce Lee was fighting for this representation. Like his film, where like the Japanese called the Chinese dogs and wouldn't allow them in the park. These were political films. Yeah. And explaining it to my kids, like my kids had no idea that when I was growing up, I never saw another Asian face on TV. I saw Long Duck Dong. I saw a bunch of images. Like, I'm still surprised. Like, how did I grow up with self-confidence when I saw all these depictions of Asian males just so beta, so less than? I really don't know. And that's why, like, I do feel like I am the reincarnation of Bruce Lee. I do. And if I'm not, it doesn't matter. Because Bruce Lee would never want someone to be like him. Bruce Lee would say, be the best version of you. That's what he taught people in martial arts. People would ask him how to do the technique. And he would say, anyone could show you the technique. I'm going to show you how you do it your way. Your honest truth. Man. And that's why Bruce Lee is such an interesting human to me. And I was born a few years later after Bruce Lee died. But I was born in the year of the dragon. And ever since I was young, I felt like I was Bruce Lee. You know? That's who I always imagined. Like when I was scared, I would imagine what would Bruce do. You know, when I went to a new school, we moved like 10 times before like the age of 13, you know, so I had to be the new kid in school a lot, and I would always think about, you know, what would Bruce Lee do? You know, and that's how I got through all of that. You know, so when my wife asked me today, you know, when did Bruce Lee die? Are you like the reincarnation of Bruce? You know, I laughed, I chuckled. But when I came upstairs, and even when I was typing in the title of this video, I was like, man, this is so crazy. Am I Bruce Lee? But you know, as I think about it more, and as I talk about it more, yeah, I am Bruce. I embody his principles. But I'm not Bruce. I'm Sabo. And that's also enough. That's his biggest lesson. Be you. Be like water. Water can become anything. Water is formless. That's why he loved water. It's formless. It could form into anything. Yeah. And being like water, I mean, it's so crazy. It's crazy to think about it, yeah. You know, what if I was Bruce? Would I live my life any differently? Do I have any more expectations of myself to be better? To represent? Not really. After watching the documentary, I realized the most important thing is to be comfortable with yourself, to be yourself. And when you are yourself, not everyone is going to accept you, but you will find the people. You'll find the right people that will accept you. And that's the most important part, you know, watching Bruce Lee. You know, he thought it was very important to share his traditions, his background with Western culture. But he didn't want to be a caricature. He didn't want to be just a sidekick. You know, the show Kung Fu, they gave it to David Carradine. They were supposed to give it to him. And instead he went back to China and he made movies in Hong Kong. It caught the attention of producers in America, and they saw something in Bruce. You know, I think it's what we all see in Bruce. It's hard. It's very hard. It's very hard to quantify what Bruce Lee had that other people didn't. He wasn't the most handsome man. He was super skinny. Yeah, he was in shape, but he was, by today's standards, he would be considered scrawny. You know, 140 pounds. And yeah, you know, what's interesting is me and Bruce are the same height, and our natural weights are similar. So even if I'm not Bruce, I feel like a lot of Bruce is running and coursing through my body. And that is something that's kind of interesting to think about, you know. If you were the reincarnation of someone who you really looked up to, would you live your life any different? Would that motivate you to strive to do more? And to me, it doesn't matter if you are or not. You know, just having that feeling of feeling like you're special, that your word is just as important as someone else's word. You know, in watching the Bruce Lee documentary, it actually made me really sad. They showed a lot of what was going on in the civil rights movement. And I see why every generation needs a Muhammad Ali. Every generation needs a Bruce Lee. It galvanizes people. You know, when you see a face that looks like yours, that's on TV, that's confident, you know, it makes you feel like You're part of that in-group that you could belong as well. You know, and I feel like this generation, we don't have our Bruce. You know? We don't have our Bruce. Maybe I could be that guy. I run a company. I do jujitsu. I'm working on my emotional intelligence. You know? Maybe these are the things. These are the things that are required now. You know, what Bruce gave us was important. You know, for Asian males like myself growing up. But we don't have to be fists of fury anymore. I don't have to show how good I am at fighting to prove myself to the world. You know, one thing about Bruce was he was a philosopher. That's the one thing I hated about this documentary. They didn't talk about the fact that he was a philosopher. He was such a deep thinker. You know, like, this is why he was able to think about not just sticking to Kung Fu and looking at different styles. You know, he wasn't married to one style. He was open. Philosophy taught him to be open. And they didn't talk about that he was a philosophy major. But I think this is why he transcended martial arts. Because many of us that can't express ourselves emotionally, like myself before, I would love expressing myself through martial arts. It's a very masculine thing to do. People loved watching me like do flips. It made myself feel good. It made me feel like, you know, I wasn't just a Chinese kid at school that was small, that was chosen last, and that I could just be myself. And you know, and for this generation of Asian men growing up, they don't have a Bruce Lee. They got Harold and Kumar. They got some other cool guys that they could look up to, but not in the same way I feel like that Bruce did for me. So how are we going to fill that gap? Well, it doesn't have to be one person. It could just be all of us. All of us do our little part. Like for myself, you know, this is why I love talking about mental health. Asian men aren't known for emotional intelligence. So I speak about this. You know why? Well, because it's important to me, that's one thing. But also, if other Asian guys see me talking about this, they'll be open to talking about it. And they'll be like, yeah, he was a CEO too. And yeah, he was a martial artist too. There's videos of him like choking people unconscious on the internet. You could Google that too. But what makes me like Sabo isn't his accomplishments. It's that he's an honest and true motherfucker. You know, and I could tell because when I listen to him talk, it resonates. I could tell that when he speaks, what he says and what he feels are congruent with each other. You know, and that's what I see in Bruce. That's what attracted me to Bruce, was that he wasn't bullshitting. I could tell when he was speaking. He wasn't trying to sound cool. He wasn't trying to sound smart. He was just speaking his truth. So in that way, yeah, I do see myself as Bruce Lee. I speak my truth. You know, and I'll keep speaking my truth because I believe, you know, that is what connects people to you. And once people get connected to you, you can start influencing them for the better. Thank you, Cynthia. Yeah, I'm having a great Father's Day. My kids are downstairs. We just watched the documentary. We played video games. I took a nap. I listened to some cool ayahuasca music. Thank you, Pat. I love you, Pat. Yeah. And yeah, you know, I don't feel out of place for asking myself, am I Bruce Lee? Because I believe I embody his teachings. His teaching of being your authentic self. He has this one talk. Go Google it. Bruce Lee, Honest Expression. You know, it's one of his most beautiful pieces, you know, where he talks about it's so easy to show people, you know, the physical movements and have them impressed by them. You know, it is. Like when I was doing flips for capoeira, It was very easy to show people that, you know, as a way of saying, hey, look, I have self-worth. Look, I can entertain you with these flips. I could show off these really fancy movements. But when someone would ask me, Sabo, what are you about? I wouldn't know how to answer. Because I was too busy trying to do flips, impressing other people. And Bruce Lee said, honestly expressing yourself, that's the hardest thing to do. You know, I wish like they would play that quote more from Bruce. Bruce the philosopher, not Bruce the martial artist. That's the man that I'm attracted to. And he did change the world. I mean, the man died at 32 years old and we're still talking about him. He died before his movie came out and we're still talking about him. And to me, that's the lesson that I learned. When you speak your authentic truth, when you speak from your heart, from your core, the world will listen. And you don't have to apologize for being yourself. Yeah. Steven, what's going on? Happy Father's Day, Steven. Yeah. You know, being like water, being formless, it's cool. But I'm not trying to be like Bruce anymore. I'm just trying to be me. And that's enough. You know, that's the message I want to send out to everyone that's watching right now. Being you is enough. You don't have to be a CEO. You don't have to be killing it. You don't have to be getting shit done. You just have to love yourself. And be comfortable with that. And know that that's enough. I can't stress that enough. You know, I've accomplished a lot in my life. I've worked for 5 companies that had successful exits. I'm running my own company now. Jimmy, I love you too, homie. And for all that time I did all those things, I didn't feel like I was enough. That's why I kept on trying to achieve more. Because I didn't believe that the world would accept me if I wasn't a CEO, if I didn't invent vaporizers. Speaking of vaporizers, I'm gonna take a rip. Shout out to Burner Lab. We make dope shit. So I guess what I want is, I want everyone to tap into your inner Bruce Lee. That means don't be like Bruce, be yourself. Find out who you are, get comfortable with that, you know, get mobilized, feel comfortable with that, because you're gonna live a large portion of your life trying to impress other people. And when you're living as another person, you're gonna attract different type of people into your life that may or may not be good for you. But when you can broadcast to the world who you are, unapologetically, you will attract the right type of people around you. You know, when I was CEO, Sabo, and I gave out a lot of vaporizers, I had tons of friends. I had a huge tribe. But these were all people that wanted something from me. I don't know what they wanted. They wanted something. And usually I gave it to them because I was afraid if I didn't give it to them, they would jump off the Sabo bandwagon. And that's when I realized, you know, that I didn't love myself. The world loves me way more than I love myself. And if I feel that way, I think a lot of people feel that way too. So yeah, if we bring it back to Bruce, and what he taught me is that being Sabo Shen is enough. I don't have to be Bruce Lee. And if I'm Sabo Shen, I will do great things. It will just happen. And if I don't do great things, it's okay. because I'm being me. Unapologetically. And your value to the planet has nothing to do with what you've done or your economic contributions. Has nothing to do with that. It has to do with how you treat others. How much room in your heart do you have for others that think differently? You know? I'm a super progressive, snowflake liberal, but I have tons of conservative friends. And I don't have to act conservative around them. I just be me around them. And even if they don't agree with me, they know I'm coming from a good place. And that our differing ideologies could coexist on the same planet. And that is what Bruce Lee did. Bruce Lee fucking bridged the world. He wasn't supposed to teach any other people other than Chinese people martial arts. But he wanted to use martial arts as a way to bridge the world. So yeah, you know what? I may not be Bruce Lee, but I'm the Bruce Lee of weed. Because I use my inventions. I use these inventions. Focus on this shit. Come on, camera. You know what? There we go. Yeah. There we go. There we go. Yeah. I use this to bridge the gap between worlds. And you know what? Cannabis works really, really good. You know? And you know what? This is the first Father's Day I'm spending without my dad. My dad passed away 4 weeks ago. You know, it's pretty fresh in my head. And spending Father's Day without my dad, you know, it's different. I've talked about this with a lot of people in my men's groups. You know, I miss my dad. I wish he was here to see the grandkids. He lived for the grandkids. Much in the same way I live for my daughters right now. Like hearing them laugh and have fun. It's my favorite thing. And my dad's soul, it has transcended. And my sister told me that she made a connection with my dad's soul. And I believe her. So I believe my dad is out there watching us. Yeah. And I know he's proud. He's proud of the man that I become. And I miss him. You know, I watched some videos of him earlier today. How happy he was to like see the grandkids. Even when I watched Bruce Lee's documentary, like there were some photos of Bruce where he looked like my dad when my dad was younger. It really just kind of made me really feel connected to like what I was watching and to my dad. And it's kind of weird, even though he's gone, I still feel connected to him. And I know he's proud. You know, my dad wasn't able to express his authentic truth the same way I could. You know, he always told me that I was better than him. And I thought he was just kind of saying that to give me confidence. Yeah, but I do feel like, yeah, you know, when he said that, I could really receive that now. You know, I could say that I'm better than my dad. And that's no slight against my dad, because my dad was a great man. But because of the life that he gave me, I was able to build certain tools, you know, certain tools that my dad wasn't able to. That my dad wasn't able to master. You know, he had a tough time with difficult situations or anything with processing emotion. You know, I remember seeing my dad mad and happy. I don't remember thinking about him crying. I can't remember him crying or showing sadness or any vulnerability. And that's why I know I'm better than my dad. And I should be better than him. He gave me the opportunity to be better than him. And I hope my kids are better than me. You know, I'll pass on the wisdom that I know right now. And they're gonna take it further. But what I want to pass on to my daughters. And Savannah, she's so cool. We call her the flow master because she's so much in flow with herself. She just does what she loves to do. And when she doesn't want to do something, she just says, no, I don't want to do that. It doesn't feel right. So Savannah is like my ultimate teacher right now on how to trust myself, how to trust my feelings, how to be confident in my own opinion, which may sound weird because I'm a CEO. But when I was a CEO, my opinion was about what's the best thing for the business. It wasn't my opinion. It was my decision, what was best for the business. And that's good. That's good. I'm not saying that having an analytical mind for business is a bad thing. It's good that I could separate that, but it's also good that I could parse out what my opinion is and how I feel about something. And what's important to me. Not what's important for the company, but what's important to me. And I see my awesome daughter. Is it dinner time? Yes. Come here.
I invited a new villager.
You invited a new villager? Hey, go put on some lip balm. Your lip's getting dry, okay? Yes, it's dinner time. This is what I do to entertain myself before dinner time because I got a fucking dope wife downstairs that cooks me the best fucking dinner. And you know what? Just so that we could tie this thing up with a nice bow. Am I Bruce Lee? No, I'm not Bruce Lee, but can I be Bruce Lee? Yeah, of course. Can I be better than Bruce? I believe that too. And that's not coming from a place of cockiness. That's coming from a place of believing what Bruce said. Be formless. Be like water. And I'm going to take that advice and run with it. And be Bruce Lee 2.0. I believe that. I believe I'm capable of that. And if I'm not, that's okay too. Because I'm just going to be doing what is most authentic and honest and real to me. And as long as I believe that, I know the world will be a better place. I've seen it. When I took off the bullshit mask of being a CEO and just became Sabo at home, my family loved me a lot more. All the people around me, once I was able to take off that mask, that shield, I connected with a lot more people. And every day I try to get more real with myself, more authentic. I'm already real enough, but how do I get more real, more vulnerable? That's what I explore. And the deeper I could go, what I realize is that's who I really wanted to impress, not everybody else. Just love myself. You're good enough, Sabo. I love you, Sabo. I love you, Dad. And I'm also hungry. So guess what? I'm gonna go eat now. I love everyone watching. Thank you.